They say fresh leadership brings fresh perspective. But that Monday morning, the only thing fresh was the bitterness of the coffee in my cup. Burnt, watery, forgotten too long on the burner. I sat across from the new guy, watching him get comfortable in the chair that once belonged to someone who actually knew the difference between a network issue and a licensing failure. Travis Lowell, early 30s, tailored navy suit, perfectly angled pocket square. He spoke like he was auditioning for a leadership podcast, confident, clean, curated. The kind of man who said synergy without irony and thought disruption was a personality. I didn't interrupt as he launched into his little speech. It was his first day. Mine try over $3,000. 10 years of code written in the dark. Of staying late, skipping birthdays, holding the system together with caffeine and quiet brilliance. I didn't need applause, just a little common sense. But Travis wasn't here for sense. He leaned back, fingers tented like he practiced this move in front of a mirror. Layla, nothing personal, he began. We're restructuring, fresh vision, new energy. You know how it is. I met his gaze and sipped my coffee. Of course, I said softly. Thanks for the heads up. He blinked a little too quickly, probably expected tears or begging. Instead, I stood up, smoothed my jacket, and gave a polite nod. His smile widened like he thought he'd handled this well. Like he thought I'd go quietly. But he didn't know what I built here. He didn't know the infrastructure humming beneath every login, every dashboard. The architecture no one else could untangle. He didn't know my name was still on the patent, buried deep in the fine print of a contract filed 7 years ago and long forgotten by the board. He thought he was cutting fat. He didn't know he'd just severed the backbone. As I walked out of the office, mug in one hand, my phone in the other, I felt no panic, no anger, just silence. The kind that always comes before the lights go out. I didn't need revenge. Not yet. I just needed time. And 5 days was more than enough. The office felt too quiet, the kind of quiet that wrapped itself around fluorescent lights and carpeted floors and made everything feel like a waiting room. I moved through the space like a ghost, invisible to the people I'd shared a decade with. No one looked up. No one asked. They all knew in the way office walls always knew things before the memos did. At my desk, I pulled out a small cardboard box and began packing, not with sadness, but with precision. A chipped ceramic mug that said "Code like a girl" in fading teal. A framed photo of me and my sister on the cliffs in Big Sur, laughing windswept. And a cactus named Henry still somehow thriving under fluorescent doom. I reached for my laptop last. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment, then unplugged it slowly. I had built the system running underneath Nexicor's operations, every dashboard, every client interface, every integration. Not with shortcuts, but with sleepless nights when budgets were tight and timelines were tighter. And I didn't just build it, I owned it. The patent filed under my name 6 years ago sat in a digital drawer somewhere deep in legal's archives. I had warned the board at the time, put my name on it, or find someone else to build your miracle. They signed, then they forgot. They always forget the people behind the curtain until the curtain collapses. I ran my fingers over the surface of the laptop. The license renewal, my license was due Friday at midnight. No one else seemed to know that. Not IT, not HR. Certainly not Travis, who probably thought the system just ran itself like magic. I closed the box gently and slipped my ID badge on top. My calm wasn't weakness, it was calculation. I wasn't going to yell in the break room or throw a scene. I didn't need to. They'd feel my absence soon enough, not in their hearts, but in their servers. I walked past the open-plan cubicles with even steps. No one stopped me. No one ever does when loyalty becomes inconvenient. The elevator dinged. I stepped in, turned around, and caught one last glimpse of the office. They had just fired the only person who knew how to keep the lights on. And they didn't even realize it yet. I changed into sweatpants the moment I got home. No blazer, no badge, no need to smile through it anymore. The silence in my apartment wasn't heavy, it was earned. I brewed a mug of chamomile tea, let it steep a little too long, then settled into my seat by the window legs, tucked under me, laptop in front of me. The screen lit up. A familiar interface blinked to life, asking for my passphrase. I typed it slowly, deliberately. The system welcomed me back like an old friend. On the dashboard was a quiet little timer in the corner, unobtrusive but precise. License expires Friday 11:59 p.m. EST. It had always been like that. Renewed quarterly, locked to my digital key, my signature encrypted into the back-end architecture. I had designed the system to be self-defending, not out of paranoia, but protection. I knew how the corporate world worked. The moment I became too expensive, they'd try to extract my work and leave me behind. I'd built around that. They never paid attention to the maintenance, never asked how it ran, only that it did. Travis probably didn't even know there was a license. I hovered over the renewal toggle. A single click, and everything would continue as normal. The dashboards would keep loading, the systems would stay synced, the clients would be none the wiser. Or I could let it expire, not crash it, not corrupt it. Just let it revert. Evaluation mode? Restricted access, legally bound and perfectly timed. No hacking, no revenge, just business. A system without a license does what it's supposed to, it locks. Just like I designed it to. I took a sip of tea still too hot and watched the steam rise into the soft light of the room. Travis thought he'd cleaned house. Thought I was just another senior staffer too stuck in my ways to keep up. He didn't know he was standing on a wire. And I held the scissors. I opened a folder labeled Legal Active Claims and reviewed the contract again. Patent 8742. C. All derivative systems and extensions remain my intellectual property unless formally transferred. There had been no such transfer. Nexacore had assumed, like so many do, that silence meant surrender. But silence was just my strategy. I saved the license status window, encrypted the revocation letter I'd drafted a year ago just in case, and closed my laptop. Then I leaned back, breathing in the quiet. I didn't need to act tonight. I just needed to wait. Because some systems collapse on their own, especially when the wrong person pulls the plug. Tuesday morning came with the same rhythm as any other. Same elevator ding, same flickering lobby light that had never been fixed. I walked into Nexacore with my badge still clipped to my coat. HR hadn't processed anything yet. Paperwork takes time. Until then, I was technically still employed. Still expected to smile. Still expected to play along. My desk, well, the desk that used to be mine, was already occupied. A young woman sat there, hunched slightly, fingers moving nervously across the keyboard. Her ID badge read Maya Alvarez. Her blazer slightly too big, like she'd borrowed it for the occasion. A notebook sat open beside her, already filled with messy handwriting and color-coded sticky notes. She looked up, startled. "Oh, I didn't know you'd be coming in," Maya said quickly, rising from the chair. I was told you might work remote during the transition." I offered a small smile. "Transition period," I replied calmly. "I'm here to help." Maya visibly relaxed, though she still looked unsure, like she'd been thrown into deep waters with floaties made of optimism. I pulled up a chair beside her and gestured toward the screen. "Let's walk through the basics." We started with the user interface, how to navigate the client dashboards where the flags were buried. Then the real beast, the code base. Layers of logic trees, conditionals, patchwork integrations that had evolved over the years. Maya was smart, I could see that in the way she asked questions. Scribbled notes followed my train of thought. But she was out of her depth. After 2 hours, Maya rubbed her forehead. "This is way more complex than I expected. They told me the system was turnkey." I gave a short laugh. They always do. I didn't say what I was really thinking. This system wasn't built to be simple. It was built to be secure, scalable, and impossible to replicate without experience. Maya wasn't the problem. She was a symptom of an industry that worshipped fresh starts without asking what had already been built. She was in the wrong place, but it wasn't her fault. I leaned back slightly and glanced at the screen. 4 days left, and the foundation was already shaking. By Wednesday, the air inside Nexacore had shifted just slightly. To the untrained eye, it still looked like business as usual. Keyboards clicked, phones rang, the espresso machine hissed in the break room. But beneath that surface rhythm, I could hear the system beginning to cough. It started with a support ticket flagged by Andre from IT. "Hey," he said as he passed my desk, voice low. "Couple of clients in Europe are having login issues. Delays mostly. Nothing's broken, but it's twitchy. I nodded non-committal. Did you run diagnostics? Andre shrugged. Yeah, backend seems stable, but the access tokens are stalling. Could be server load, could be a sync issue. I'm digging. Let me know what you find, I said with a polite smile. I already knew what he'd find. Or wouldn't. By mid-morning, more pings arrived. Small ones, an export delay here, a timeout there. Maya looked increasingly frazzled, her sticky notes doubling. But I offered only quiet reassurance. It's normal, I said. Growing pains, that phrase would soon come back. At 2 p.m., Travis called an all-hands meeting in the glass conference room. He stood at the head of the table like a man who still believed he was steering the ship, clasping his hands with the confidence of someone who had never written a single line of code. I want to thank everyone for how smoothly this transition is going, he began, voice bright. Too bright. I know there have been some minor hiccups, login delays, dashboard lag, nothing we can't fix. It's all part of growth, right? Growing pains. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Across the table, Andre frowned slightly, but said nothing. Maya sat beside me, her notepad full, but her eyes uncertain. Travis smiled like he'd solved everything by acknowledging it out loud. We're moving in the right direction, he said, as if conviction could override architecture. The meeting ended in a shuffle of awkward silence. People nodded, dispersed. No one said what they were really thinking. Back at my temporary station, I opened a terminal window and ran a passive diagnostic, not to fix anything, just to observe. API calls were beginning to fail intermittently. A soft pulse of instability ran through the logs, not enough to panic, but enough to signal what was coming. I leaned back in my chair, watching the system sputter. This wasn't the quake. This was just the wind picking up. Thursday arrived heavy like the air before a thunderstorm. Even the lighting in the office seemed dimmer, like the building itself was bracing for something it didn't understand. I walked in with the same calm, my steps quiet, my expression unreadable. The license countdown now read, expires in 1 day, 14 hours, 23 minutes. I didn't need a reminder. The system was already speaking in warnings, just not in a voice anyone else was trained to hear. Andre had stopped trying to hide his concern. Dashboard latencies spiking in North America now, he muttered in passing. And that analytics engine choking on basic reports. It's like the system's throttling itself. I simply nodded. Keep me posted. At 10:47 a.m., Maya appeared at my desk, clutching a sticky note, like it held the key to her sanity. Her face was pale, eyes wide. I don't know what's happening, she whispered. 3 clients are locked out of their dashboards, and I followed every protocol you showed me. I reset access, reran sync, nothing works. I turned to her calmly. Let's take a look. We sat side by side, me guiding Maya through the logs. Error messages blinked like beacons. Token invalid. License authentication failed. Evaluation mode imminent. It's not your fault, I said quietly. The system's doing exactly what it was built to do. Maya blinked, which is respond to expired ownership. Before Maya could ask more, an email blast from client success hit everyone's inboxes. Subject line urgent. Multiple client complaints about access issues. A spreadsheet was attached. The list of affected accounts was growing by the hour. And yet Travis remained untouched. Or maybe just unaware. He breezed past my desk just before lunch, coffee in hand, speaking into his phone. It's just some back-end bugs, he said. We've got it under control. I turned back to my screen and opened the folder titled Legal License Termination. The revocation letter, drafted, revised, and ready, stared back at me. I adjusted the timestamp. Delivery. Friday, 6:00 a.m. Perfect timing. I reread the opening line. As of this notice, all proprietary systems and related infrastructures will revert to restricted access due to non-renewal of license as per Clause 9.1. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. The cracks were already spreading through Nexicor's polished glass tower. I was just making sure they broke in the right places. Friday began before the sun. I was already awake when my alarm buzzed at 5:00 a.m. I sat by the window, a cup of black coffee warming my palms, the city still wrapped in a sleepy hush below. There was a certain peace in knowing exactly what would unfold today. No guessing, no what-ifs, just inevitability ticking forward. At 5:58 a.m., I opened my laptop. The revocation letter was still there, ready, final, precise. No rage, no threats, just legal truth. I hovered for a moment, not to hesitate, but to appreciate the stillness of it. Then I clicked send. The letter was delivered to Nexicor's executive board, their legal department, and their IT head time-stamped to the second. At 7:30 a.m., the systems began to go dark. Internal dashboards froze. The client analytics portal returned a license authentication error. API services reported access denied. In Europe, Asia, and across the US, support tickets exploded into existence. My phone buzzed just after 7:45 a.m. Maya, I answered. Hey, Layla, it's happening. Everything's failing. I can't log into half the modules. The client portals are returning blank screens, and Andre says the license key isn't validating anymore. What's going on? I was calm. Did you check the logs? Yes, they say, license invalid. And her voice faltered. But how can that be? I revoked it, I said softly. Silence. Then in a whisper, What? It was never their software, Maya. They just treated it like it was. Another beat of silence. Travis is going to freak. Sounds like he already has, I said, and ended the call. 15 minutes later, my phone rang again. Blocked number. I knew exactly who it was. I picked up. Layla? Travis's voice was tight, brittle, the edge of control slipping. The systems are down. The dashboards, the reporting tools, the internal portals. Everything's failing. Clients are threatening lawsuits. What the hell did you do? I didn't do anything, I replied steady. I just stopped doing everything for you. You can't be serious. I am. His voice dropped an octave. Okay, look. Let's be reasonable. Just tell me what you want. We can fix this. I didn't laugh. I didn't scream. I just said it's not about money, Travis. It's about respect. Something you lost the moment you decided I was replaceable. He went silent. I'm not coming back, I said gently. You made sure of that on your first day. Then I ended the call. There was no satisfaction in it. No cruelty. Only clarity. This wasn't sabotage. It was absence. And they were finally feeling it. By 9:00 a.m., Nexicor was trending for all the wrong reasons. The first headline came from a mid-tier tech news site. Major analytics outage hits. Nexicor financial clients affected. Within the hour, it snowballed. Bigger outlets picked it up, quoting frustrated clients citing unverified leaks from inside the company and speculating about internal mismanagement. By 10:30 a.m., the company's official website was displaying only a bare-bones message. We're currently experiencing a temporary service disruption. Please bear with us. But the world wasn't in a forgiving mood. Client representatives, especially from Nexicor's highest-paying financial firms, began airing their anger on social media. One COO tweeted, Nexicor just cost us our quarterly report deadline. This is unacceptable. Others followed. Threads exploded with screenshots of error messages, outage maps, and speculation about legal action. The stock dropped 11% before noon. Inside the glass tower, panic bled through every hallway. I wasn't there, but I could picture it, Maya fielding impossible questions. Andre buried in diagnostics, and Travis. Well, Travis was finally silent. He didn't call again. Maybe because he knew. Maybe because he was in a boardroom full of people demanding answers he couldn't give. The kind of answers only I ever had, and the kind he discarded like they were optional. The story spread faster than the fix. Anonymous employees started leaking internal emails. One shared a screenshot of the revocation notice. Another posted a redacted excerpt from the original patent agreement, with my name circled in bold. The narrative shifted quickly. This wasn't an accident. It was negligence, not a technical failure, but a leadership one. By the time the noon bell echoed through the building's common areas, Nexicor had become a case study in arrogance. And I was sitting on my balcony with a fresh cup of coffee and a blanket over my knees. The city humming quietly beneath me. No gloating, no interviews, no public statement. The collapse was loud enough on its own. And somewhere inside that crumbling glass tower, Travis Lowell finally realized what it felt like to stand at the top of something he didn't understand and watch it fall. By late afternoon, my inbox was overflowing. Subject lines screamed for my attention. Let's talk, your work is brilliant. We'd love to bring you in as a lead equity. Autonomy, your vision, startups, venture capital firms, competitors of Nexicor who had once ignored my emails. Now they were lining up like suitors at my door, offering everything from six-figure salaries to full creative control. One even attached a term sheet on the first message. No introduction, no small talk. Just a blank check for the ghost who brought Nexicor to its knees. I didn't click on a single one. I scrolled through them, slowly sipping tea, my phone face down beside me. For a moment, I thought about the irony. How invisible I had felt inside Nexicor. How many times my suggestions were waved away, my name misspelled in company emails. Now the world suddenly remembered me. Now they wanted me to save their foundations. But I had no interest in becoming someone else's foundation again. I selected the entire folder. Delete. Gone. I didn't need validation. I didn't need to be invited to the table. I was already building something of my own, something that didn't require permission. As I closed my laptop, a soft breeze came in through the window, rustling the edges of an old sketch pad on the shelf behind me. It had been collecting dust for years. I walked over, picked it up, flipped it open to a blank page, a space to create, from scratch, with my name at the top this time. Monday morning, I stepped into a quiet office, downtown, glass walls. Sunlit floors, a whiteboard filled with scribbles and ambition. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't loud, but it felt real. Claire was already waiting, a coffee in one hand and a knowing smile on her face. Layla Morgan, she said warmly. Word travels fast. I smiled back. So I've heard. We sat, no pitch deck, no rehearsed monologue. Claire didn't ask for a resume or a portfolio. She remembered. Not just the collapse of Nexicor, but the conference years ago where I had stood quietly in the back offering ideas no one had time for except Claire. So Claire asked, what do you want to build? I exhaled, slow and steady. A company where creators own what they make. Where engineers aren't replaceable. Where vision matters more than vanity metrics. No noise, no hierarchy for the sake of hierarchy. Claire nodded once. We'll fund it. Just like that it began. No empire, no throne. Just a foundation built with my name on the first brick. I wasn't returning to anything. I was starting something no one could take. The message came late Tuesday evening. My phone buzzed once, then again. Voicemail. The name was there, clipped and impersonal, Travis Lowell. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Curiosity nudged me to listen just once. His voice was quieter now, strained, defeated. I resigned, he said. Effective immediately. I hope you're happy. You got what you wanted. I didn't respond. I didn't even save the message. I tapped delete and placed my phone face down on the kitchen counter. It wasn't happiness I felt. Not triumph. Just release. The weight I'd carried for a decade had finally dissolved, melted by truth, not revenge. I stepped onto my balcony, the city lights glowing beneath me like distant stars. The breeze pulled at my sleeves. Somewhere far below, the world rushed on emails, sent calls, made deals, brokered by people still convinced they owned everything they touched, but not me. I closed my eyes and breathed in the night air, steady and clean. I hadn't destroyed anything. I had simply stopped holding it together. And now finally they were left with the emptiness they'd created. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming unreachable.